Hello and welcome to Smaulgld's update on German gold repatriation. Germany gets its gold back early. German Bundesbank achieves gold repatriation goal ahead of schedule. The gold repatriation goal that the German Bundesbank had from the New York Fed has been completed, and more than half of Germany's gold will be in Germany by the end of this year. Keep in mind, gold represents about 2/3 of Germany's gold reserves. We're going to go through the history of the German gold repatriation today, starting in 2013 and up till just last week's announcement. And tomorrow we're going to talk about other countries' gold repatriation requests kicked off by Germany's gold repatriation requests. And we're also going to talk about how much gold is left at the Federal Reserve, the New York Federal Reserve, on behalf of other countries, so be sure to check in tomorrow as well. Let's talk about the German gold repatriation story as it sits right now. By the way, please, if you are enjoying the work that we're doing here at Smaulgld, please check out the banners and links on the site and below this podcast where you can buy gold and silver. You help Smaulgld out. It's not investment advice to buy gold or silver, but if you're going to buy gold or silver, please do it through the site because we do get a small commission. You can pick from SD Bullion, BGSC, JM Bullion, Golden Eagle Coin, and Money Metals Exchange. So you got a lot of choices to choose from, and you can compare pricing and shipping and make your selection. Also, if you're interested in helping Smaulgld out and you have a few extra dollars or Bitcoin, you can donate them to Smaulgld via the links below or on the website via PayPal or Bitcoin. And there's also a Patreon if you wish to subscribe to Smaulgld and pay a small amount each month. That would also be appreciated. Okay, enough of that. Remember, I don't do Google AdSense, so there's your advertisement. You don't have to see ads, you just have to hear me pitch what I have on the website and to request donations. Now, why does Germany have much of its gold abroad, and why does it still have a lot of gold abroad? Well, according to the World Gold Council, Germany has about 3,400 tons of gold, which makes it the second largest gold holdings in the world. We're just going to take a quick look at this chart here. There you can see Germany is number 2 to the United States, which supposedly has 8,133 tons. And then you can see it falls off from there. So Germany is a major gold owner, or at least the German Bundesbank is with its 3,400 tons of gold. Now, until recently, Germany had about 70% of its gold abroad, and that gold was in London, Paris, and New York. And they set a goal, the German Bundesbank, of by 2020, they'd have half their gold in Germany, and that they would have just 37% at the New York Fed and 13% in London at the Bank of England and none in Paris. I've linked here on this blog post a video from the president of the Deutsche Bundesbank talking about why Germany kept a lot of its gold overseas. And the real reason is because of the Cold War. They stored their gold abroad because those of you old enough to remember or have some sense of history know that after World War II, the Soviet Union rolled into half of Europe, and there was always a threat that the Warsaw Pact countries, which included Eastern Europe and Russia, may one day roll over NATO and roll through Western Europe and conquer Western Europe. And in doing so, they would probably plunder the gold held in the Western countries. So many of the countries in the West figured the United States had helped them win the war. Well, they were going to then be safe to put their gold over in the United States and geographically make it such that their reserves were allocated such that even if Russian tanks did roll through Munich and the rest of Germany, their gold would be safe in the United States. Now, in January 2013, let's put this into recent historical perspective, Germany made a request to the United States Federal Reserve and to the Bank of Paris, the Bank of France in Paris, that they wanted to get some of the gold back that they had in those locations. And initially, the Federal Reserve told them, no way. And then Germany said, well, can we at least come and see it? And they said, no, you can't do that either. And that led a lot of people to speculate what's going on. Now, as we'll see tomorrow, the Federal Reserve supposedly holds in its vaults down in Lower Manhattan a substantial amount of gold on behalf of other countries. And when Germany asked for it back, and finally when the Fed said, well, you can have it back, but it's going to take us 7 years, that raised many eyebrows because they weren't even asking for all of their gold back. They were asking for a portion of their gold back, a few hundred tons. I mean, it doesn't take 7 years, and anyone can figure that out, to send a few hundred tons back to Germany. So a lot of people were thinking, well, maybe the Fed doesn't have it. Who knows? Now, I'd like to get your comments below why that request was denied, because in my mind, there is, even if the Fed didn't have the gold and the amount that Germany wanted, it could easily have been purchased over time on the open market. So I'm not sure why that request was denied. I'd like to hear some theories on that. But in any event, they were told it's going to take 7 years. And then Germany acceded to that, and they said, okay, well, let's get the process started. The total amounts that Germany wanted was about 675 tons from the New York Fed and the Bank of France. So that was January 2013. A year later, only 37 tons had been returned to Germany, 32 from Paris, and just 5 from the New York Fed. Now, this doesn't make sense at all. You ask for 600-700 tons of gold, and you get 35-37 tons of gold back in just 1 year. You're not doing too well. Well, then in 2015, in January, the next year, the pace picked up. The German Bundesbank reported that it got 120 tons, that's more than 37, of which 35 tons were from Paris and 85 tons were from New York. And then later in the year, in March, the Bundesbank noted that 67 tons had been transferred from Paris and another 90 tons from New York, reflecting an increase in the amount reported at the year-end 2014, bringing the total amount they had received of the 674 tons that they wanted to 157 tons. And they also noted that still, as of 2015, the end of 2015, at that point, the Bundesbank had almost 1,500 tons of gold still in New York, 438 tons in London, and 307 tons in Paris. Last year, in January 2016, the Bundesbank announced that another 210 tons of gold were transferred to Frankfurt from Paris, of which 110 tons from New York, 110 tons from Paris, and 100 tons from New York. At that point, last year, the Bundesbank announced that they now had 1,400 tons of gold in Frankfurt, which now made it its largest storage location. Not 50%, but it was still the largest storage location ahead of New York since the end of last year. And that they had 41% of their gold, excuse me, in Germany, and about 40% were still in New York, and the rest in London and Paris. Now, just recently, last week, Germany reported it met its goal of repatriating its gold from the New York Fed ahead of schedule. Now, it's interesting they call this ahead of schedule. Well, the 7-year schedule itself was ridiculous. Why it would take 7 years to get a few hundred tons of gold out of the New York Fed is beyond me. Why it even took 4 years or 13, 14, 15, so yeah, 4 years for them to get this amount is kind of ridiculous. Now, they're touting is that they got it ahead of schedule. I would say they got it late. But now, remember, the reason they said, I didn't cover this at the beginning, the reason they said that they wanted their gold back at the early 2013 was they were concerned about a euro crisis. Remember, this was after the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, and they were concerned, and this is again before Grexit or potential Greek exit from the euro, just all the Greek problems. This was before Brexit. This is before the Five-Star Party in Italy. This is before Le Pen in France. This is basically, I guess, Germany being far-sighted enough to think maybe there might be an issue with the euro, and if that's the case, they're going to need that gold to back up the German Deutschmark, if that's what it ever came to or comes to. But in any event, last week they announced that the transfer of gold from New York was completed successfully last year. So they announced it a month and a half later. They apparently got this gold by year end. But they said the transfers are carried out without any disruptions or irregularities, other than it taking 4 years. The gold storage plan for New York, which envisions the transfer of 300 tons of gold from New York to Frankfurt, was fully realized in 2016. So they got their 300 tons of gold back. It took them 4 years. Then he also noted, the board member of the German Bundesbank, we will be able to complete the transfer of gold from Paris this year too. Consequently, there will no longer be any gold at Paris. The realization of the gold storage plan is therefore considerably ahead of the original schedule. Well, the original schedule that they made after they were told to go pound sand when they wanted their gold back initially in 2013. Now, the reason they don't want any gold in Paris is Paris, Germany, they're both Euro countries, so they're not really diversifying themselves having it in Paris. And if there was an issue of any type of war, German Paris, they're close enough that that's not even geographic diversification. England, they have it there because it can be transferred into British pounds. It's probably even more important for geographic diversification to have some gold in the US and in England. If they wanted to transfer their gold into those local currencies, they could do it right there on the spot. Now, here's a chart that the German Bundesbank put out showing that once they retrieve, this chart doesn't show, but once they have their gold back from Paris, they will have 50% of their gold in Germany. So I'll take you through the chart very quickly. So right now, as of the end of last year, December 31st, 2016, they had their 1,600 tons, which is almost 48% of their gold. The Fed still has 37% of their gold. Bank of England has 13%. They'll keep that, and they'll get that other 2% back from the Banque of France, and that's about 91 tons. Once they get that back, then you take the 47.9 and the 2.7%, and bingo, you get more than 50% of the gold that Germany has in Germany. Now, the Bundesbank also promised, there's another issue. There were stories that the first shipments of gold that the Fed sent to Germany initially were not the bars that Germany sent to them in the 1950s. Now, everybody understands that gold is fungible. That's why everybody likes gold. It doesn't matter whether this bar or that bar. If it's been assayed, it's been tested. A ton of gold is a ton of gold. Doesn't matter what the markings are on it. Although, if you want to track your gold, you do want to put inventory numbers on them. And apparently, the gold that went back to Germany, the first case, looked like it was newer gold. The bars that had been cast more recently than when Germany sent it. Now, that raised eyebrows as well. Now, when you send gold bars to be held, it doesn't really matter which ones you get back, but you would think if they're not moving them around, the Federal Reserve would have in the New York vaults a Germany pile, and they would just go and take from the Germany pile because there's no numismatic value. It doesn't matter which gold bars you get back. But in any event, going forward, the Bundesbank has promised to publish an updated list of gold bars on its website February 23rd. So we'll take a look at that together once that comes out. And that list will contain the bar, melt, or inventory numbers, and the gross and fine weight, as well as the fineness of gold. So we should be able to see whether any of that gold leaves or the vaults of Germany if they continue to publish that list, which I don't think they probably will. But the real question then is, will they add gold? Well, why don't they? Why, if they're so concerned about a euro crisis? Yes, I know they've got 2/3 of the reserves in gold, but it seems odd that none of these countries, United States, Germany, Italy, France, Switzerland, Japan, Netherlands, India, they don't add gold at all. Switzerland sold more than half of their gold in the early 2000s. England's not even on this list anymore because they sold a good portion of their gold in the early 2000s. Canada has no gold left as a central bank. Only Russia, China, Kazakhstan are adding gold as central banks. So while we've had this repatriation request from Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, other countries have also asked for their gold back or are considering asking their gold back, they're not too concerned about adding gold. So that's just another thing to think about. But thank you very much for listening. And tomorrow we will go through the other countries that have made and or have achieved repatriation requests, and we'll also take a look at some charts from Nick Laird at ShareLink, Gold Charts, or else he changed the name, as to how much gold the Federal Reserve is still supposedly holding on behalf of other countries. Thank you very much.